Well, that was quick. That countdown happened very quickly. Hey, everybody, it's Blair Lee, career strategist and purpose-driven coach. I'm actually sitting here with the lovely Stacy Cassio. Thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. I think we're going to have a really good conversation. We're kind of talking a little bit before we went went live about some things that we try not to go into too much detail on what was going on so we can make sure that we explore everything while we're in a live conversation. So let me do just my little formal introduction for Stacy. So if you all don't know her, you need to know who she is. In 2017, Stacy Cassio founded the Pink Mentor Network, Charlotte's first female mentorship community, followed by the creation of Pop-Up Mentor, a brand new model for mentorship in 2018. Today, that model is being used by organizations of all sizes and industries to build transparent, scalable, measurable employee resource programs. Stacy is dedicating her life to reshaping how individuals seek and obtain mentorship, not membership. But yeah, you can also be a member of Pink Mentor, and helping organizations build cultures of mentorship. In 2019, her work was nominated for the Athena International Corporate Award for Leadership and Charlotte's Inno's Opportunity Champion Award. Stacy was also named a Mecklenburg Times 2019 Phenom. See, I told you, Stacy, you're the one and only Phenom. Stacy's career was built and fueled by great mentors until she eventually became one. That is so deep. Stacy's career was built and fueled by mentors until she eventually became one. That's beautiful. So thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So, I mean, of course, the theme throughout everything that we spoke about, or that I just kind of in the introduction for you, was all about the mentorship. So, I love to hear kind of how you got here. I mean, I know it could be a long story, it could be a short story, but kind of what's the evolution to kind of how you became here right now?
Yeah. So it all started out of finding what I needed. So I was at a point in my career about 3.5 years ago where I was looking for mentorship, and it just kind of was difficult, middle in our career, trying to find that and then also build the relationship. And so I started events that led to a community who both wanted to contribute to the conversations, but also show up regularly. Mm-hmm. And in that, I was able to identify that mentorship is so antiquated. It is something we have not updated since Greek mythology. That's how old. Yes.
Greek mythology. Please elaborate on this.
Mentorship comes from the Greek god Mentor, and it's really hasn't changed too much over time. It really comes from experience versus inexperience. And I saw that failing. It really becomes a burden to the person who is asked to share, because you are another relationship on their busy plate. Yeah. And then it becomes such a really strange power dynamic, because when you're asking for mentorship, it puts you at this less than position.
Yeah.
And my idea,
we need to stop that.
We shift and reframe.
And how do we do that? How do we stop that definition or that perspective?
Yeah. So that's where I get really excited, because in sharing what you have learned, so at the root of it, mentorship is simply sharing our experiences. And at the end of the day, that's all we have that builds our legacy. And so we as mentors need to be thinking about it's an opportunity for me to serve and share and create opportunity for those around me, and reframe it into a privilege to be a mentor. It is a privilege that someone is seeking my experiences in order to grow.
That's a very selfless perspective. And when everyone's so busy in their daily lives, sometimes they don't look at it from that perspective. I mean, and that's what's kind of, sad about kind of the state of our society at this point, is that some people unfortunately may see it as a burden, and they really shouldn't, because I mean it's growing all of us collectively as a whole to elevate us to that next level of where we all want to collectively go in life. So it's so important.
Yeah, I think it became clear to me in those early events when a very busy woman would say yes to sharing her experience at one evening for around 50 women. And at the end of that conversation, she would walk away with the biggest smile and satisfaction. And they would always look to me and say, wow, I did not realize that I knew so much powerful information.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that we collect so much just slowly throughout our careers. And it's not until we have the opportunity to share it with another that it validates all that crap we went through.
Yeah, when we had no idea that we were this knowledgeable, we didn't understand that other people maybe aren't at that same point, or maybe they have different perspectives in different areas. And it's something, again, if you come together, you don't realize what you know that somebody else doesn't know, but then, you know, back and forth, like they may know something that you don't know and that you can learn and grow from. So it really is a mutually beneficial process.
I think not only is it mutually beneficial, but it helps the mentor in so much fulfillment. So you get to a certain place in your career where you've got the salary, you've got the office, you got the title, but it's actually that ability to take your social and career capital and share it with others who deserve it, who've worked their rear ends off, and you open a door for them.
Yeah. Because they've built the bridge up to that point, but you kind of help them over the bridge. And that's the difference. It's not for people who haven't done the groundwork, who haven't laid the foundation for their own personal growth. So once, like, you're willing to meet them where they are to then come together.
100%. And I always say the cadence of the relationship is on the learner. So it isn't, and this is where a lot of traditional mentorship programs fail us. It's not about frequency. It's not about how long you spend together. It's not about how many coffees you get. It's about when you have and receive information that is useful to you, going back to the person who you received it from and saying thank you. And then they will be encouraged.
Because that closes the circle.
Further. Yes.
Right. Because if you could spend so much time with somebody, and then if you never receive that feedback, then you think, well, I thought that was good. Maybe it wasn't even helpful. Why am I going to help anybody else if I expended this amount of time, energy, whatever, to this person, and it wasn't even helpful? So why bother with anybody else? But if it's that full, I guess, reciprocal, you know, conversation and just relationship as it builds, then everybody is kind of validated in the process and encouraged and inspired to go on and help somebody else.
Yeah. And it's not a burden, you know, it becomes just this, your parallel paths. And most of my the top mentors in my career, it's a give and take of information. I see them as a mentor as much as they see me as somebody they can, you know, bounce ideas off of and get feedback and get vulnerable with.
Because no one person knows everything. That's the thing that we have to remember. I mean, someone may be a billionaire or whatever it may be. They may have 30 years of experience or whatever it may be, but there's some place where they're lacking and they can use mentorship. And then, you know, again, it could be a reciprocal relationship. So, I mean, I really need to change the paradigm and just the perception and the definition of how we're approaching this, because imagine how much more, again, I said this before, but I'll say it again, more growth as a society.
100%. And that's exactly what our mentorship model does. So we take the burden of the relationship out of it. And we meet people at the points in their careers where mentorship is really critical. And those were identified over time by recognizing patterns in our community members at Pink Mentor Network. There were 6 times where members were coming back to our programs, to the mentorship available in order to accelerate their career or their business. And once we identified those, we were able to change that whole framework of pairing inexperience with experience. Because if 2020 has done nothing else, it proves to us that we always have to be innovating, because the challenges around us are always changing. And so we have to be thinking about new ways and fresh perspectives to problem solve. So that piece to me is super exciting, because in traditional mentorship programs, we have completely undervalued inexperience.
So let's talk about that. Traditional mentorship programs versus what it is that you have cultivated and put together. What would you say the differences are? Because again, if you're talking about traditional, and I didn't realize it went back to Greek mythology or whatever it is, like, I didn't realize it went that far back, but I will say, just in a side note, because this is interesting, I actually had a conversation with someone this morning about how when I was younger, I had many interests. One of them was actually financial planning, financial services, things like that. Like, I loved the concept of learning about money, how to make money, all that kind of stuff. So in my mind, I thought, oh, I'll do accounting. I wish I had a mentor to say they're two different things, or they're not parallel, they're not 100% related. I just didn't know I was making the best decision that I could. And I was an A student. So, I mean, I wasn't someone who just, who didn't understand things. I just, at a certain point, I just think that mentorship is so important, even at that young age. And I guess my question, I have several questions for you, but the one is, even at the age of 18, did you think that you would ever be doing what you're doing now? That's my first question. And then my second question, back to what I said before, was how does what you're doing now, the model that you're creating and cultivating, compare to traditional mentorship models? So loaded question.
Yeah. 18-year-old Stacy did not have.
Yeah, tell me. Yeah, let's see her. Tell me about her.
18-year-old Stacy lived in a small farm town in Kansas, and the only thing that she had on her mind was getting the heck out of Kansas. And it was, I think even if you would have told me a year ago that I would be at this point, I probably would have run from it. And I was having a conversation yesterday with a entrepreneur who was early stage. And she said, I feel like an imposter in many of the rooms where my customers may be. And I shared with her, in my journey, every day prepared me for tomorrow. And I think that's for me, there won't be success or failure. There will only be learning, and how do I apply what I've learned to the challenges of tomorrow? And it isn't, and that's going back to those women who didn't realize they had so much to offer or so much to share. It is this piece by piece, day by day, repeating and showing up for the work that you love. And that to me took 38 years to find work that I loved. And I did a lot of jobs before I found my purpose. And once I found that, it still took me 2 more years to believe that.
To actually believe it. Yeah. That's the path. I mean, because we're programmed in a certain way to think a certain way that then we don't, I guess, believe in ourselves, the imposter syndrome, all that stuff. We got to get all those programming out of our heads. And sounds like it took you 2 years to get all that programming out of your head to realize, oh, I'm actually doing something here that's valuable.
I think it took me 2 years to flex enough muscles to feel strong enough to do it. So for instance, you have to do some things that will prove those self-limiting beliefs to be untrue. And one of them, for me this year was, I always wondered if I could communicate my message via video. Well, in 2020, that's the only way that we're communicating.
Isn't that funny? And that was just, you had no other choice, right? I mean.
Right. And it's interesting too, because I have shared my message and it has impacted more people than ever in 2020. And I think it's, those opportunities to grow that you'll find over time, and you'll become stronger. And now, I say this to people who are struggling to find connection and networking through these tools. It's not the tool. Don't be afraid of the tool. Your message will resonate regardless of the tool you use. If it's who you are, that's what people will hear and be attracted to. So I think, that anxiety over, what is the next generation of work? I think it's more about what is the next generation of you? What does the evolution of you look like and how and where will you show up?
And that's really insightful, especially given what's happened in 2020, because not everybody, I don't want to talk generically, but like so many people are trying to get back to the way things were. And that's been kind of the theme throughout the whole year. Like, let's get past this so we can just get back to how it was. Things are not going back. I mean, that's not going to happen. And so where does the change have to happen? It has to happen here. It has to happen with us. We need to evolve with the changes that have been happening. And I've talked to so many people, especially in terms of the remote working and things like that, which, back in the times of, when I was in recruiting, that's what everybody wanted, but the employers weren't necessarily providing that because, oh no, you can't be productive that way. All of a sudden, boom, we have to be productive that way. And my goodness, I mean, yes, there've been a lot of kinks, but things have evolved. So it really is up to us, and it's really our personal development and our personal growth, and for us to take ownership for those changes that we want to cultivate in our lives and not look externally. Because so many of us look externally for the validation. I mean, it has to be, again, reciprocal, but then it has to initiate inside of us.
Yeah, I think the other piece to that is, before the pandemic, I was speaking to a lot of entrepreneurs and creatives about industries where we saw they were failing the people they were serving. Okay. And at that point, it was around January, we were saying, if only we could get people to pause in what they're working on and in order to see that it's not serving them anymore. Yeah. That it's time to get creative. And I think, the future.
But we don't have time for creativity. We don't have time for that. I got to get my work done.
Well, there's another challenge is busyness. I think that will be the next thing that we'll be struggling with because, managers are looking at their employees' calendars and seeing how many appointments are on their day, but appointments does not represent work done, does not represent output. Right. And so I think we need to step back and look at, all right, because burnout comes from just being overwhelmed with meetings and overwhelmed with people who need your time. And so it's really important that we're reevaluating what our measure of performance is.
Yes. And that's part of this paradigm shift that we're in the midst of, because again, before this, a year ago, 14 months ago, again, things can't get done unless you're in the office and face to face. I mean, and we're learning that this just isn't true. And that kind of brings me to my motto, as we see on the top right corner of the screen, is stress less, live more. That's just how my life has evolved, because I know that I tend to identify with stress and I get caught up in it unnecessarily. It is counterproductive, and it's something that I've been working on. And that's why I'm building my business around the concept that, stress is not a good thing. Like, some people see it as being a positive thing. Oh, I need to be busy to get work done. It depends on how you define it. That's a whole other story. But I guess my question is to you, what systems, processes, mindsets have you started to incorporate in what you're doing, especially related to the mentorship model and the paradigm shifts that you're trying to create? Like, how do you stress less and live more?
Yeah, I am very grateful for this question, because it allowed me to pause and think about what stress is for me. And when I broke that down, it really is identifying my external stressors and how to alleviate them. And sometimes that comes in a human form, or, comes in a particular situation that the reason they're stressed is because it's not working for me anymore. But I think for me, the best stress is the internal stress, because it's always an indicator that I'm headed in the right direction.
Oh, the right direction. If you feel stress, it's funny, I guess, and we're all individual. When I feel stressed, to me, that's an indicator to stop and reevaluate what I'm doing. Because typically because I'm pushing against something. I could be pushing against something that I should not be doing. Or it could be also, maybe you're on the right track and you need to overcome something.
Exactly. And I've noticed that the external the external stress are things I need to alleviate. Okay. But the things that, keep me up at night because, I'm really trying to problem solve, or I'm trying to come up with a different solution, it just means that there's some passion there. And it means that I need to reframe the situation and perhaps look for more data to problem solve. But the stress that I create for myself as far as goals and metrics and things, that really fuels me and drives me because it keeps me going. It keeps me motivated. I think it's the reframe that is critical. It's all right, Stacy, is this really is this worth it for you to feel this way? And many, many times it is. I'm just anxious about it because I know I'm on the verge of a breakthrough.
Okay. So, I mean, I guess, again, reframing is the operative word of what you just said. And that's really all about the mindset that a lot of us, our minds can work for us or they can work against us. And I really love the way that you even just articulated that, because you kind of got me thinking like, yeah, it's if I'm stressed out about something, what is causing it? Is it, and it's just, it could be, and even internal, it could be, because I know for me, I sometimes beat myself up for unnecessary reasons, and that's causing stress. And it's like, so there could be different nuances of that. But if you're, as you just said, like anchored on your why or your North Star or whatever it may be, so you have to kind of step back and say, will this get me closer to or further away from what I'm trying to do here?
100%. And I think for me, the anxious nights and the reasons like that is also, it just means I'm headed in the right track. It means that, I'm flexing a new muscle. I'm making sure I'm not super comfortable, but all of my success or all of my biggest learnings have come outside my comfort zone. So to me, that's the right track.
And then you got to go back and take a nap and, reevaluate yourself. Because, it's never fun outside. But then again, as you kind of lean towards, as you get toward that edge of your comfort zone, the comfort zone expands. So then to go to where you were last week, it's not as bad as it was the week before, if that makes sense, because you keep pushing it more and more. But then as you grow, because we're humans, having a human experience, and we are growing and learning, and that's part of our human experience, we need to be busting through our comfort zones on a daily basis in order to learn and grow. So
and I think that will make us stressed. And so I don't think there is a way
that's an inherent stress.
To live stressed free.
Yeah.
But there is a way to, measure stress in a way and reframe it that in a way that works for you. And I think it's the goal.
Well, it's mindfulness. It's being aware. It's really checking in with yourself, as opposed to getting caught up in the busyness and just keep moving. It's stopping and reevaluating and reviewing and saying, okay, why do I feel this way? Is there a positive reason why, or is there a reason that maybe is not for my highest good? And just, and kind of making your decisions based on that. And I think that is a bigger thing, because yes, I mean, doing something when you do, hopefully I don't butcher this statement, but when you do something that you've never done before, or when you're trying to become something or attain something or grow to where you've never been before, if we've never done it before, how do we know how to do it? And when you're doing something that you've never done before, that's stressful, because it's an unknown. It's like getting on a bike for a first time. You've never done it. So that's interesting. Well, let me ask you, just with our conversation, I think this actually leads into this with the learning and the growing that is happening right now. And I think also 2020 has accelerated that in many ways. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Like, where do you see this, the mentorship, kind of your mentorship model, as well as kind of just what you're cultivating right now? Where do you see that going in 5 years?
Yeah, it's really exciting. So, it started out of my own need, and now I'm in the phase where it's scaling it for many. And that will require more than just me understanding how this works. And so it started with events that built the community. And then once I recognized that the model for mentorship needs to be recreated, it's not working for busy professionals. We developed, the 6 categories of mentorship that every career needs. And then what does that look like inside the organization? And for me, a lot of the work that I've been called into for 2020 is all around employee support programs. And what do they look like in a virtual space? What do they look like for women who, 25% of us are scaling back or leaving our careers because the work environment is not working for us? How do we create programs to support and connect us in ways where we feel the benefits of that. And it's all through adopting this model of mentorship. And then the other piece in 2020 has been, creating formalized, transparent, measurable sponsorship programs where an organization can formally sponsor underrepresented talent within the company. And what are the opportunities that teaching our leaders how to be sponsors can create? So one of the ways that we're doing that is we need to rethink about leadership development. Leadership development used to be visioning and management, but in 2020, we've learned it also means figuring out how to care for people in a way that isn't just a Zoom meeting.
Empathy.
How? 100%, but it doesn't come naturally to everyone. And
especially not in a work environment where we're supposed to come as a certain way. Like, we're not supposed to show our feelings. We're not supposed to, that, again, that's kind of gone out the window in 2020, but this is a change. Think about like when you imagine like the 80s and the tight power business suits and all that kind of stuff. Feelings, schmealings, like they're out the window. But this is we're evolving into, and the great leaders are really seeing that.
That makes me think of like going to work in the 80s. You had those shoulder pads.
Yeah.
It was uniform. You had to protect yourself.
Yeah, protect yourself. And you also had to bring your shoulders up to be more like men. That's as the women. Think about it. There's probably some sort of deep psychological thing with that, but that's part of it, is bringing you up to be able to compete with men.
I think there is such an opportunity right now to reevaluate if we are really supporting the workforce in a way that is working for them. And, burnout, all the things that we've talked about in this time together are indicators that it's not. And so we need to try new things. I have been talking to a lot of companies recently, and the approach is, let's take a pilot year. Let's try new things.
Why not? Everything's like back to zero right now. It's not like you have to step back what you've already been doing. This year has kind of wiped the slate clean. What a perfect opportunity.
Right. And so for me, 5 years from now, it will be about the people that are currently in the program becoming the leaders of organizations and creating this culture where sponsorship isn't a employee support program. It's in the DNA of what this company stands for. We hire for that. We promote for that. We are looking for people who not only are developing themselves, but are responsible for developing those around them. And so I get super excited because this mentorship model has such an opportunity to scale this mindset far beyond anything that I bring to it.
Gosh, as long as I've known you and as much as I know about this last part that we were just talking about, I didn't understand the psychology behind what it is that you're trying to do. And that's really cool. Because that's the issue, is the burnout, is the mindset at work. People come into work aimless. Like, they don't know really what they're doing, and they're trying to everyone's trying to like take care of themselves. Like, not necessarily it's just, can you imagine if we start to cultivate these, I guess, belief systems, the mission, incorporate into the mission of a company and all that good stuff. And then again, as things grow and compound and cumulatively, grow, can you imagine where we could be in 5 years?
I think a lot of companies, very well-intended leadership teams have been trying to do this for years. And it becomes a mission statement, it becomes our purpose. It becomes a lot of things we hang on the wall, but we're not sure about how to make it happen. And
where's the disconnect? Like, that may be a deeper question than we have time to get into, but like, where's the disconnect there? Because a lot of people say, we care about our employees, we care about their growth, we want to grow leaders, but it doesn't happen. Why?
A couple things. It's, the priority of the organization. What are the, obviously, we have to be making money here, but there's also this, as a leadership team, it is our responsibility to develop those around us. And we have to teach people how to be mentors and sponsors. It is not something that, we're ever formally taught. It's something that once you have a good mentor, you realize how that changed the whole course of your career. but it's not until you have that opportunity that you understand the power of it. I was doing a kickoff meeting for a huge organization, and I didn't know it, but it was for the women in the company, and they had invited their male ambassadors, and there were more men in that room than women. And I didn't realize it, but the male CEO was on the call. And at the end of the call, he said, as leaders within this company, we all have a responsibility to adopt this mindset. It is no longer about, the vision and the management of your team. It's also developing them in a way where they feel supported and still connected in their office at home. And so there's a shift that has to happen. And it starts by, teaching people the skills of and supporting the actual leaders.
I think it actually starts even before that, because a lot of people may not articulate it in the way that you are, in terms of, this is all rooted in the mentorship model. This is all rooted in the fact that we need to be working. People may know, oh, we need to cultivate people or whatever, but they may not understand that a mentorship model is something that would help lead them to the goals that they ultimately said that they have. And that may be where the disconnect is, but they just don't know what they don't know.
Yeah, 100%. And I invite all of those people to have a conversation with me, because the model that we've created is transformative. It is a new way of thinking about career development, sponsorship, about diversity and inclusion. It is the tools that you will need on the next level of those things, especially in remote workforces.
And so, given what you just said, I mean, who would be the ideal person to reach out to you? What would it be? The people who are looking for mentors? Would it be the organizations who are looking to cultivate this environment? Like, how would you answer that?
Ever since lockdown, I have had 2 appointments on my calendar every single day, and it is a quarantine call. And I have the great privilege of talking to people at all levels of organizations. They get on my calendar, they see it there, and they take advantage of it. And I will say this, I believe so much in this model that it will serve anyone who needs it at any place in the organization. And it is, I think the community of Pink Mentor Network, which still exists today, is a great place to plug in if you need extra support and connection as an individual. But if you are a leader looking for new ways to support your team, that deserves a really a closer look at the model and how it can work for you.
So given that, I actually create... I'm sorry, wait, you went out a second at the end. What did you say?
Said I'll talk to anyone.
Yeah, sure. Anyone, call her. Well, here, so given that, actually, I created this little... Actually, where is it? There it is. Yeah. So if you all want to reach out and have more of a conversation with Stacy, as she said, she's got room on her calendar to talk to anybody at any level. Here's where you can find her. And also, when we're off this live broadcast on LinkedIn, I will also make sure I tag her in the actual, post, whatever that's related to this broadcast, so that you can reach out to her easily from that perspective. But I will also include a comment in it with this visual. So if you want to reach out to her through Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. So Stacy, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
You know how much I care about you. I support what you're doing. I think it's awesome. And I actually got reinvigorated today just by even digging in, because I've known you for a couple years now. And again, what you were doing a couple years ago is different than the conversation that we had today. I think it was rooted in it, but it was definitely a different conversation today. And I'm excited to see the connection between the mentorship and the growth of organizations in a way that supports people holistically. Because, this is what we all need. Like, we all want to provide value. We all want to come in to work and do a good job and, work together and have a good team and all that stuff. But many organizations don't have the structure to support that. Even though they want to, they don't. And so what you are actually proposing here is, a great place to start. So thank you so much for coming on today and talking about it. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Okay. I will talk to you later. Thank you so much.